Burhan Wani, the young leader murdered by Indian forces, has emerged as a symbol of the latest Kashmiri Intifada, a popular and peaceful freedom movement led by Kashmiris.
Hi, you're watching Current Issues. My name is Vineet Malhotra, and that was Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who delivered his speech at the United Nations General Assembly. But the world is actually fed up with Pakistan's hypocrite stance in the war against terrorism. It was ironical to hear Prime Minister Sharif saying that terrorism in Pakistan is being funded by foreign forces. And this comes from a country where Osama bin Laden was found. It was astonishing to also hear Nawaz Sharif eulogizing Burhan Wani and calling him a martyr. And he is a self-proclaimed terrorist. It just underlines India's narrative that how Pakistan has always pioneered the largest campaign of terrorism. So the question is, what is the step ahead bilaterally? Is there any? Of course. How are Indo-Pak relations going to be shaped from now? How to deal with a rogue nation that is also nuclear? How to deal with these two parallels running opposite and simultaneously together, which is the Pakistani government and the deep state of Pakistan, which is also called the Pakistani army. Let's delve into this debate and let me welcome our guest onto the show. Joining me from Geneva, Mr. Tarek Fatah, Pakistani commentator. Sir, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us. Mr. V.N. Thapar, who's a defense expert. Mr. Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, is with me in the studio. Sir, thank you for being here. And Altaf Khan, who's a member of the MNS party. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Mr. Tarek Fatah, let me start with you. The speech that Nawaz Sharif so vehemently narrated in the UN General Assembly, who do you think wrote it, sir? Is it the Khaki Pindi people? Is it the ISI? Or is it the Chinese? I think it's some comedian who wrote that speech, sir. Your reactions?
No. There were multiple people who wrote that, and you could hear different people speaking at the same time. So every paragraph had a different writer attached to it. Nawaz Sharif can't write speeches. I mean, he's a buffoon who's ended up as prime minister. You know, he can't even dress up on his own. He's never read a book in his life. You're dealing with a very mediocre person who epitomizes the general illiteracy amongst Pakistan's Punjabi elite. It's a very, and it helps the fascist nature of Islamic supremacist ideas that the Pakistan military empowers. The speech may have been funny to you, but to various stakeholders within Pakistan, it was satisfying. And I think India's response could have been much better, because India still doesn't bring up a single issue, that is that it is Pakistan that is occupying Gilgit-Baltistan and Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and that the 1948 resolutions that Pakistan brings up requires Pakistan to withdraw every military person and civilian, plus the 50,000 Chinese who have joined them to loot that part of the world. But that doesn't come across from Indian diplomats very forcefully. This should be the number one issue. You don't withdraw, we don't talk.
Absolutely. And Mr. Sajjanhar, coming to you now, how ludicrous is the idea? How ludicrous is this particular thought that Pakistan keeps on propounding, that in fact it is itself a victim of terrorism and it is in no way supporting or brandishing terrorism?
I think Pakistan has lost all credibility when it tries to portray to the world that it's a victim of terror. It is maybe correct in a manner of speaking that it's a victim of its own policies. Because what does it do? It breeds terrorists in its own backyard. And I will not maybe even quote any Indian strategic expert or analyst or commentator. But when Hillary Clinton went there in 2011, you would recall, she was speaking to her counterpart Hina Rabbani Khar, and she said that if you have if snakes you are cultivating in your backyard and you think that they are going to only go and bite your neighbor, and they are not going to bite you, then you are living in a fool's paradise. And this is exactly what Pakistan is doing. It has been nurturing, it has been funding. And in our response today by our young diplomat Inam Gambhir, that's what she said, that much of the foreign aid that is coming into the country, the aid for development of the country, that is being funneled off, that is being siphoned out to promote terrorism. And also that there are these terrorists who are on the streets of Pakistan asking for funds in violation of the obligations that Pakistan has so solemnly accepted in international fora. So I think it has lost all credibility with the international community. It has lost all credibility when it speaks about terrorism as far as the neighborhood is concerned, as far as South Asia is concerned. We know Afghanistan, we know what is the point of view of Bangladesh. So I think the whole world, as you, Vineet, said it very correctly right at the beginning, the whole world has lost patience with Pakistan when it speaks about terror.
Absolutely. And Colonel Thapar, coming to you, eulogizing a gun-toting, self-declared commander of the Hizbul Mujahideen, do you think Nawaz Sharif has probably shot himself in the foot? He's implicated himself indirectly by saying that Burhan Wani was a martyr.
Well, let's be practical about things. Pakistan has cultivated these asymmetrical forces, forces which are potent, and they can help their armed forces to a huge extent. So therefore, if you expect that they will criticize them or they will do anything against them, would be hoping for too much. And so far as we are concerned, after all the events that have happened in Uri and the huge public outcry against it, I think we expected a little more, tougher stand than what is now transpiring.
Right.
You see, the démarche given to the Pakistani Mr. Basit, it is not the kind of tough.
Right. The response the public was expecting it would have
has been belied. And to my mind, I think a more forceful response is required, because that is about all Pakistan will understand. So far as this debates and diplomacies and all these things, every nation is looking after its national interest.
Absolutely.
Nothing much has changed in the last 1.5 decades in Pakistan. First America was okay with them, now China is okay, because it suits their particular interest.
Absolutely. Altaf, coming to you, the Americans are probably working towards passing a law which will declare our rogue neighbor Pakistan as a terrorist state. Do you think India should also probably start such a campaign?
I think India has already taken that stand, and it has diplomatically taken that challenge internationally to isolate Pakistan and call its bluff. Today, the speech that Mr. Nawaz Sharif gave, in all probability, it looked like the speech was written by Hafiz Saeed and not anybody else, because he was speaking his language. So India doesn't have to do much anyways. Pakistan has already exposed itself by saying what it said. The national policy of Pakistan is totally not defined. Nobody knows what's happening there.
Well, the state policy is terrorism.
State policy is terrorism, of course, and the army is saying one thing. This Nawaz Sharif is totally isolated because of his own personal problems back home with the Panama leak and a lot of other things. So India has to now take this stand up. Let
me rope in Mr. Tarek Fatah once again. Mr. Fatah, we remember what happened to Nawaz Sharif last time. He was trying to cross swords with the army chief. We all know what happened to him. And had not the Saudis intervened, he would have met the same fate, as Mr. Bhutto met when Zia-ul Haq was the commander of Pakistan. Do you think Nawaz Sharif is not a man in himself. He's not probably, recognized as a leader. He does not have the voice that the Pakistani people feel he should be having, and he's just a puppet. And India is suffering at the hands of this dichotomy which exists in Pakistan since it gained independence in 1947.
I think India is suffering because India does not understand Pakistan. The gentleman talked about snakes in the backyard. Pakistan is the snake. Pakistan is not nurturing snakes, but India needs to qualitatively understand what it's dealing with. I think many of your senior diplomats have not yet reconciled to the fact that they are not dealing with a group of people who desire to live as a nation state. They are governed by the ideology of Ghazwa-e-Hind and hatred of the Hindus and the desire to once again appear in Delhi like the sons of Babur and Aurangzeb. And if you think that is funny, that's the Indian problem. The Pakistanis are pretty serious as to what their ultimate goal is. So discussing Nawaz Sharif is not the issue.
Right.
The point is that the entire Punjabi structure is based on demeaning its own language, have an identity crisis where they speak a language of the people they hate. That means they've adopted Urdu when they can't speak it. They've banned Punjabi right across Punjab. So it's a very dysfunctional people who think that they are Arabs and then try to become Central Asian barbarians. And so it's a confused lot, but they all believe that life begins after death. So you have on one side people who have a desire to die, and on the other side there is the people who think life is what matters.
Okay.
And this is a conflict right across the world. It's not India. It is a civilizational war between those who feel that Sharia law determines the future of humankind and who wish to establish a caliphate, like Burhan Wani was very explicit in when he said that I want a caliphate not just in Kashmir or India, but right across the world. He was representing ISIS. India is not facing a country. India is facing the Islamic State that was created in 47, that is now represented in Iran as the Islamic Republic, that is Saudi Arabia as an Islamic kingdom, that is the Islamic State in Syria and Iraq, and now I fear also the Republic of Turkey. We have a world war going on, sir. It is not a localized affair. And sometimes you have to sacrifice a lot to gather peace. We did it in the Second World War. We lost 30 million people just in Russia, 1 million dead Indians, 1 million Chinese died to stop one ideology that sought to control the whole world. We are now facing Islamofascism that seeks to destroy Hinduism, Christianity, Jews. So get away from the fact that this is a local issue between India and Pakistan. No. India just happens to be the world's largest democracy, and therefore it has a responsibility to fight Islamofascism wherever it appears, in its own backyard, in its own home, or across the border.
Absolutely. Let's also listen into what Nawaz Sharif said yesterday, and we'll play out an excerpt from what he said yesterday, and we'll try and get our guest to react to the ludicrous statements he's made in front of the world.
Over 100 Kashmiris have been killed, hundreds, including children and infants, blinded by shotgun pellets, and over 6,000 unarmed civilians injured over the past 2 months.
Ironical, therefore, that we have seen today the preaching of human rights and ostensible support for self-determination by a country which has established itself as the global epicenter of terrorism. Its envoy in New Delhi was summoned in the context of the most recent of the terror attacks in Uri that claimed 18 Indian lives. That terrorist attack is a part of a trail of continuous flow of terrorists trained and armed by our neighbor and tasked to carry out terrorist attack in my country. present. Even today, we have heard support by the Pakistan's Prime Minister for a self-acknowledged commander of a known terrorist organization, Hizbul Mujahideen. Pakistan is a country with democracy deficit. In fact, it practices terrorism on its own people. It extends support to extremist groups, it suppresses minorities and women, and denies basic human rights, including through draconian laws. As a democracy, India is firmly resolved to protect all our citizens.
Okay, India's envoy, giving a befitting reply to Nawaz Sharif, and Mr. Sajjanar, coming to you. Is it feasible to conclude that nobody takes Nawaz Sharif seriously anymore? He's written 3 letters to the UN, and none of them, were replied to, and that is probably because Pakistan has this bad habit of always contradicting itself, only to probably, make India take look and give it some attention.
No one takes Pakistan seriously because there have been changes in Pakistan at the helm of affairs. I think, as I mentioned earlier, Pakistan is not convincing. It has lost all credibility. You mentioned about the fact that 2 members of the House of Representatives have moved a proposal to designate Pakistan as a terrorist state. Now, let me also put a cautionary notion here. I don't think we should expect that over the next 3 or 4 months, Pakistan will be designated. This has a symbolic value. And I think we should take it as such because, now the Congress is also outliving its life. There will be a new Congress in another 3-4 months. But I think symbolically, the fact that the whole of Congress today, US Congress, stands with India. So in that sense, it is symbolically very, very significant. Also, the fact that when Ban Ki-moon made his last address to the UN Secretary General, he mentioned all about the various terror spots and various problem spots in the world. He did not have anything to say about Kashmir, obviously. So his message, his letters, his meeting with the UN Secretary General has had no impact. When Barack Obama made his statement, then he also had nothing to say. He is also making the last statement of his presidency at the UNGA. He also had nothing to say about it. So the point that I'm trying to make is that Nawaz Sharif, Pakistan does not cut any ice with the international community. Now, what Mr. Tarek Fatah said, I think there is considerable significance in what he says, but also that as far as Indian leadership is concerned, what we are really looking at is economic growth and economic development in the country. So we want peaceful borders. So I think for the last 20-25 years since this terrorist attacks have been launched from Pakistan since 1989, we've been hoping against hope that things will improve.
Right.
But in my view, what has happened in Uri now, it has really it is crossed all limits.
It was probably the last straw on the camel's back.
Last straw on the camel's back, absolutely, as you said.
Okay, Mr. Thapar, coming to you. We of course are talking about the way Pakistan has been imploding from within, but recently it also made a move. It's restricted, a lot of its flights from moving about in the northern part of Pakistan. What kind of an implication does that have, and what should India do about it? How can we read into it?
No, I think there's nothing much to be read into it. While we desire to have peaceful borders for the sake of growth and economic progress, it can only materialize, fructify from a position of strength. I mean, we somehow think that diplomatically and on the fronts of economy and such like things, we will be able to rein in Pakistan. I think we cannot reduce the importance of military leverage in the conduct of our affairs with Pakistan. To that extent, I would always say that it is time we started paying more attention towards the military, which is obviously a tool to extend the policy of the state.
Right.
That I am afraid requires a lot of attention, and it is wishful thinking. All the world may not take Sharif seriously. We have to take him very seriously.
Right.
We have to see not him, we have to take Pakistan very seriously, because they are capable of mischief. I dare say that they are a nuclear power, an irresponsible nuclear power. And with that kind of a situation existing, and with China playing in the game,
Absolutely.
we have to be very, very serious about
And
what
you
is
know,
happening in
Sir
Pakistan.
Obama was once asked what keeps him up at night, and Altaf, you know what he said? He said it's Pakistan that keeps him up at night. You know, talking about a response, Altaf, you know, muscular response is what 60 to 65% of the Indian population endorses. But we are not Pakistan. We are not immature. We are a responsible nation which has nuclear capabilities. We are not into proxy wars. We are not into, you know, training camps of terrorism. What kind of a response do you think will be befitting for Pakistan, according to you?
According to me, I think Pakistan should be taught into the same way that they understand the best.
The same language that they speak.
Same language they understand is what they speak. You know, so I feel it's about time our diplomat has given a very good response at UN today, but the same thing has to be extended on the ground, and I think we need to see some strong and solid action on things, because there are a lot of terror camps in Pakistan which are harming us, as we saw in Uri. So we have to take some strong action, and I think the time for talks is over. Side by side, you can keep talking to whoever you want and however you want, but now the time has come to give proper response to Pakistan, which they understand the best. And as you said, 65% people of the country want the same. So you know what the roadmap for the government is. I think शराफत छोड़ दी है नवाज शरीफ ने, तो हमें भी we have to also go on the same direction, and we have to also make him pay for the lives that we have lost in Uri and in Pathankot.
Of course, I totally agree with you, Altaf. And Mr. Tarek Fatah, coming back to you, you know, peaceful protesters in Gilgit-Baltistan who have been protesting peacefully have been, you know, thrown into the slammer, have been thrown into jails for 40 years by the Pakistanis, and Nawaz Sharif goes ahead and at the UNGA calls Burhan Wani a peaceful soldier, a martyr. How ridiculous is that statement? And, you know, when will Pakistan actually get over itself?
I think they're partly delusional. You can't blame them. Forget about the protesters in Gilgit-Baltistan. The mayor of Karachi, the largest city of Pakistan, is in jail now for 2 months. I mean, it's ridiculous. But you will have to take practical action. And the first thing India should do is suspend the Indus Water Treaty.
That's right.
I mean, everybody says take action. Practical action is this. But you'll have to excuse me. I have to go. I have another appointment. I'd like to be staying on. But thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Mr. Fatah. We understand your commitment. Mr. Sajanhar, coming back to you, you know, like Mr. Tarek Fatah said that, you know, the worst we can do is suspend the Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan. But when terrorism is used as an instrument of state policy, sir, it automatically becomes an act of war. When will India wake up and smell the coffee?
Yeah, I think that is what our representative at the United Nations also said, that when terrorism is used as an instrument of state policy, it becomes a war crime. And looking at the responses as far as Pakistan is concerned, one is of course at the international level, at the global level, and that is what we are doing, trying to get Pakistan designated as a terrorist state, getting it isolated, putting pressure on the United States, on the Congress. They have brought down the $300 million military support. They have desisted from supplying F-16s to them, etc., etc. And you have seen also the two representatives who have moved this proposal for designating as terrorist state. At the bilateral level, as you said very rightly, about 65% of the country wants some action on the ground. And I think the commitment and the promise with which this government has also come, this is the day of reckoning. I agree that it should not be a knee-jerk reaction. It should be a calibrated response While saying that, I also would like to say that all this talk about Pakistan being a nuclear weapon state, you know, and this is what he also mentioned, that the international community will allow the tensions to rise at its own peril. So he's threatening, Nawaz Sharif is threatening the world that if you do not force India to come and speak to us, then there is danger
of
war. Of a nuclear holocaust. And I think this is very, very irresponsible. I think the fact that they keep on brandishing that we are a nuclear weapon state and we have not got these nuclear weapons to keep them in a show house or something. I think we need to tell them, because after all, India is also a nuclear weapon state. If they use their tactical nuclear weapons, they might be able to cause damage. But I think they should be assured that they will be completely obliterated. So that is number one. Number two, I think it is we really, for the credibility of the government and also for what the country has been paying, because it is really, water has gone beyond all levels, that there needs to be, but it needs to be done in a calibrated manner.
It's done in a calibrated manner and a calculated manner. We're running out of time. Altaf, coming to you now. You know, what we did in Myanmar, you know, we crossed international borders, we sorted out stuff which was in our favor. Do you think that's the kind of approach that we should actually apply against Pakistan, or is that a bad idea?
That's an excellent idea, because Pakistan is harboring, Pakistan kept Osama bin Laden under their military.
He was the guest.
He was the state guest in Abbottabad, and they call, if they think Osama bin Laden is worthy of keeping them in their country, so you think Burhan Wani they'll not call hero? He was self-proclaimed terrorist, carrying AK-47 all around. He was killing dengue mosquitoes there to get the title of hero. What does he know, Nawaz Sharif, about India and problems in India? He's not even able to take care of his own problems. So I think it's about time India should take that strong action and just go across the border, and the way America did it. How can America do it and why can't India do it? India is suffering at the hands of...
suffering the most at the hands of a belligerent and a rogue nation.
So they cannot just sit and watch forever, you know. The time has passed. It's about time now. I think India should take...
Absolutely. A lot of water has passed under the bridge, and it is time that India asserts itself and takes decisive action against a neighbor which has been a perennial source of pain and discomfort. On that note, I'd like to thank our guest who joined us, Tarek Fatah, Mr. Sajjanhar, Mr. Thapar and Altaf Khan. Thank you so much for joining us. That is all we have on Current Issues. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.